ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोर्श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्ता नमोस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। श्रीकृष्णचैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, 9th chapter, verse number 33, spoken by Lord Krishna to Brahma, and this is the second verse of Chatusloki Bhagavatam, and we've been reading the commentary by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The verse says, Ritayartham yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta cha atmani tadvidyadatmano mayam yatha bhaso yatha tamaha. So this verse is giving the definition of Maya. Lord says Maya is that which manifests based on me or founded in me. Ritayartham na pratiyet, it cannot be manifest without my support, but it is not manifest in me. Na pratiyeta cha atmani tadvidyad atmano maya, that should be known as Maya of the Supreme Lord. And he gives the example of yatha bhaso yathata. It's like reflection or darkness. So just as reflection is not in the source, it cannot be there without the source, so Maya also functions like that. And its basic purpose, two functions of Maya, that it reveals something which is not existing and covers what exists, and therefore people remain in illusion. So that's why it is called illusory power or potency of the Lord, because it bewilders the living entity, the conditioned souls who are not devotees or surrender to the Lord. So when it bewilders, it does not mean that the objects have changed. The object outside have not changed. It is only their perception which is different. So we have our senses, mind, intelligence, and there are sense objects outside. So nothing happens to the intelligence and nothing happens to the sense objects But in between Maya comes and it makes these objects appear then to us the way they are not. So that is the function of Maya. If we can know things as they are, then we will be out of Maya. So Maya, just as in darkness we don't see things properly, or if some heavy lights fall into our eyes, then we may start seeing colors, although there are no colors. And we may not see the objects in front of us. We're walking on the road and suddenly there is a car coming or flashes big light into your eyes and you cannot see things. So this is the function of Maya. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said that Maya consists of two divisions, Vidya and Avidya. And the Vidya part is helpful because it also reveals something about the true nature. And Avidya, of course, is that which covers and bewilders us completely. So he explained that if one follows the path of Jnana or Yoga and develops Vidya, then Vidya dispels Avidya or ignorance. And when ignorance is dispelled, then one starts seeing things as they are. कुछ कहना था क्या? अभी तो मेरा पाठ चल रहा है. तो so he said that by cultivating Vidya or knowledge, one can become liberated or mukta. But one will not realize the Supreme Person unless one takes to devotion. One will also not realize Brahman without bhakti. And one can only know that one is not the body, but what exactly is one, it is possible only to know through devotion. And that's where we stopped yesterday. So he had quoted this verse from Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kamshati samay sarvesu bhutesu mad bhakti lavate param. And he said that it is param bhakti. That means before that also the person was performing guni bhuta bhakti or mixed devotion. And that's why one was able to realize Nirvishesh Brahma. But one will not be able to realize the supreme form of God or Bhagwan. So it says, Ityukte jati pramana bhyam alpiyasya taya bhaktya nirvishesh brahmana eva anubhava na tu ananta chid vishesh brahmano bhagavata. So it's because this bhakti which the jnanis or yogis perform, it is not pure, so it is not very powerful in its intensity or in its quality, jati and praman, in its class and in its intensity, strength. And therefore by this bhakti one can only realize Nirvishesh Brahman, the impersonal feature of Bhagwan, but cannot realize Bhagwan himself, who is the reservoir of unlimited powers. And he gives one example. Says, Yatha alpa tejasvi chakshushkena janena manimai murti samanya tejomayi eva drishyate natu mukhnasika netra karnadi visheshmayi tatascha vidyayas samastyenaiva uparame sati adbhut nirgunyasya tasya taya eva bhaktya brahma anubhavasya api purnatvam etadeva nirvana sabdavachyam jiva brahmaikya. So it's just like if somebody has a defect in the eyes, the eyesight is very weak, and he sees some deity made of gems which are very dazzling and there is light falling on it. So because of the weakness of the sight, you will only see it just one big piece with effulgence coming out of it, but not with its various divisions of mouth, nose, hands, legs, and so on. That will not be seen by this person. It will just look like one big bright piece of gem. So in the same way, one person has cultivated knowledge and becomes situated in Vidya, becomes free from avidya or ignorance, and then by the power of bhakti this Vidya is also removed, then one by the help of bhakti only realizes Brahman without any divisions in it, any form or any qualities. So this is called nirvana, or oneness between Jiva and Brahma. So in reality there is no oneness, but because the person cannot realize the distinction and considers that there is only Brahman and there is oneness with it. Yaduktam tatraiva. Therefore in Bhagavad Gita itself, Krishna says, Tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. That knowing me as Tattva, Tattva means Brahman, then he enters into it afterwards and thinks one with it. So that is the Brahman realization. इति यातु चित शक्ति वृत्तिनाम सारभूता कृपा विलास रूपा परमोत्तम शुद्धा भक्ति जाति प्रमाणाभ्याम अत्यधिका सा प्रबला परम स्वतंत्र गुण दोषादिकमपि अगणयन्ति बद्धे अपि जीवे राक्षस पुलिंद पुलकशादौ दुराचारे अपि यदृच्छैव उदयते. Says then there is the other bhakti which he spoke, which is the pure devotion and which is manifestation of Lord's Chit potency, the essence of all the manifestations of Chit Shakti, and it is also manifestation of Lord's grace, and it is the topmost and pure, and it is very powerful in its jati or class, which means jati here refers that there is some relationship with God. This bhakti which yogis perform, they don't want to develop any relationship with. So jati refers to the relation. So it is powerful because the devotee has some relation as servant or friend or parental relation, and praman means its strength, intensity. So because it is much more than the previous one, it is called prabala, that it is very powerful, and param swatantra, it is completely independent. And therefore, being very independent, it does not bother about the qualities or defects of the devotee. Guna doshanam api aganayanti, not caring for that. Therefore it can manifest even in a conditioned soul, baddhe api jive. The previous bhakti was not manifesting in the conditioned state. Previous bhakti was manifesting only when a person became liberated. Therefore Krishna says that Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kamshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti labte param. So when he has become Brahma bhuta, which naturally means liberated, and na shochati na kamshati, he is free from desires or lamentations, means he is free from raga and dvesha, and he sees equal he has an equanimous vision. So this is the symptom of a liberated person. Then parabhakti manifests, not before that. But in this particular case, it is not that one has to first become liberated. Like yesterday somebody was asking that do we have to now follow this. So devotees don't have to go through the process which was described for the jnanis. The devotion can manifest even in the conditioned state, and it does not care for one's material status. Therefore it says Rakshasa Pulinda Pulkasha. Even it can manifest in the demons. So as Vritrasura, he was a great devotee. Duracharayapi. Even if one has improper or immoral behavior, still it can manifest. Sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavashito hisa. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Yadrichaya udayate. It is causeless, manifests without any cause. That's why he said that it is paramasvatantra. It is absolutely independent. It's not dependent on anything else. Bhakti is supremely independent, and therefore it comes by the grace of herself. And vipre sannyasini mukte api no dayate. And it may not manifest in a brahmana or a sannyasi or a liberated person. So these three are considered as high in the society: a brahmana or a sannyasi or a liberated mukta. So it may not manifest in them. Bhakti is not dependent on any social status at all, or the material qualifications. It is independent. Taya eva avidya paryant samast klesha dhvansa. And then when it will manifest in a person, it will remove all the kleshas. These 5 types of kleshas described: avidya, asmita, raga, dvesa, abhinivesha, pancha klesha. So all these 5 types of kleshas up to avidya, which is the root cause of all miseries. Klesha means misery. So it destroys them absolutely up to their root. There is no chance of them coming back again. It's like you take the seeds and you fry them, and they will not sprout again. So that is by the power of bhakti. Yaduktam jarati ashu ya kosham nigirnam analo yatha. So as Lord Kapil Dev has told to Devhuti in 3rd canto, Animitta Bhagavati Bhakti Siddhir Gariyasi, that this causeless devotion, Animitta, which is performed without any material motive, only for the pleasure of the Lord, Anukulyena Krishnanusuyana, that is the pure devotion, that is Uttama Bhakti, says that this Bhakti is superior even to Siddhi or liberation. Bhagavati Bhakti Siddhair Gariyasi. Siddhi here means Mukti. And what it does is Jarayati Ashu Kosham Nigirno Analamyatha. So just as when we eat food, then it is digested, assimilated by the fire in the stomach. In the same way, this Bhakti destroys all the koshas, coverings on the soul, the bondage. So we talk about Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha. Kosha means like a wallet. So you keep your money inside that. So like that the soul is inside the wallet of this body, and there is life air and there is mind. Everything is covering it nicely, like a cocoon. So only bhakti has the power to take it out. Otherwise it is not possible. So that's why he says that it removes avidya, and jarati asu means then the person naturally becomes liberated. तयैव अनन्तचिद्विशेषस्य भगवतोऽपि अपरोक्ष अनुभवो भवेत्. And then by the power of this very devotion, one has direct realization of Bhagavan, who is Ananta Chidvishesha, who is manifestation of unlimited Chit power, and it is very special, different from the Brahman. So that is the power of bhakti. Bhakti kya grahya. Krishna says that he is known. Bhaktyaham ekya grahya. I am understood only by bhakti. यथा बहुतर तेजस्वी चक्षुष्केण जनेन सामान्यतस्तेजोमयी विशेषतश्च मुखनासिका नेत्र कर्णादि सौंदर्यमयी च मूर्तिर्भेदेनैव दृश्यते. So he gives the same example as he gave earlier, that this murti or form which is made of gem and it's very dazzling. So if one has good eyesight, then one will still see this form and see the various limbs of this murti, with face, eyes, nose, ears, etc. But the person who had weak eyesight was only seeing an effulgent form without any divisions inside. So bhakti reveals, bhakti gives the power. Tadevam bhaktir dvidha. So in this way bhakti is of two types, nirguna, gunmayi cha. There is nirguna bhakti or pure devotion and gunmayi, mixed devotion. Tatra adhyaya pakdashayam prem bhakti sangaya bhagavad vashikara. So the first type of devotion, which is called nirguna, when it becomes mature, because there is sadhana bhakti and there is sadhya bhakti. So pakdasha means the mature state, the ripened state. Then it is called prema bhakti. Sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti and prema bhakti. Prema bhakti is the mature state. So its characteristic is that it controls the Lord, Bhagavad Vashikara. Because Lord, although he is supremely independent, there is only one thing which controls him, and that is prema. So even the most independent person is also controlled. So really speaking, nobody is independent. We think God is independent. That is only for us to allure us out of this place. But he is not independent at all. Because he says that I am controlled just like a husband is controlled by a chaste wife. Satastriya satpatam yatha. Naham atmanam ashasa. Says I don't care for myself without my devotees. I am absolutely bound. So we think that Krishna is Ishvara, Parama Krishna, he is the supreme controller. He is not controller at all. He is the supreme dependent. Because he has got so many devotees. At least when somebody has got wife, he has only one wife. And he is controlled by one wife. But Krishna has got so many devotees and so many prema bhaktas, so he is absolutely controlled. That's why he says, I cannot leave Vrindavan. Vrindavanam parityajya padavikam nagaccha. It's not that it's by will that he cannot leave. It's not that he has decided he cannot leave. He has no freedom to leave. He's absolutely controlled. He doesn't go anywhere. So that is the meaning that he is Bhagavad Vashikara. That's the first quality he says of Prema Bhakti. That he is completely under the control of his devotee. Sachidanandamaya Bhagavad Rupa Guna Leela Madhurya Anubhavascha. And after the Lord is controlled, then the devotee, he has experience of the sweetness of Lord's transcendental form, his qualities and his pastimes. So then there is a loving exchange between Lord and his devotee. That is the beauty of love, that everybody, we think that Lord is, saying Krishna is supreme enjoyer. He is not supreme enjoyer as we think, because we have an idea that he is just enjoying and everybody is serving him. That's not the way to enjoy. Nobody can enjoy by getting service. That's only an illusion. Enjoyment comes only by doing service. So when it is said that he is supreme enjoyer, basically it means that he is the supreme servant. So he is known as Bhagavan Bhakta Bhaktiman. That Bhagavan, Lord, he is the devotee of his devotee. We only call him Bhagavan so that we don't get confused. But actually he is a devotee all the time. And that's why he comes as Lord Chaitanya. He is very impatient to be Lord Chaitanya. He is a devotee. And that is considered as the highest manifestation of Bhagavan, and he is devotee. And the ecstasy which he manifested, even Krishna never manifested those ecstasies. That's why he was intrigued that what is wrong with these gopis, why are they so much mad after me? So he also became like that. So this is the nature of this love, prema bhakti, that both become completely bound, and then obviously then there is no question of anybody falling down or leaving or anything. They are controlled. Devotee is absolutely controlled to begin with, that is his sadhana, and then Lord also becomes like that. Dvitiya satvikaya sattvagunad vichyutaya eva nirvishesha brahma sukhanubhava matra. And the other type of bhakti, which was Gunamayi bhakti, and Gunamayi here means Satviki bhakti, because if it is Rajasi and Tamasi, that cannot give Brahman realization. So Satviki bhakti can give Brahman realization. So therefore it says Sattva Gunad Vichyutaya eva. That also when it becomes free from Sattva Guna. Otherwise if one remains only in Sattva Guna, then still one will not know Brahman. So he says Satvikya Sattva Gunad Vichyutaya eva. So that time it has to become free from Sattva Guna also. Then only it can reveal Nirvisesh, because Nirvisesh Brahman is also Nirguna. And if one has to realize Nirguna Brahman, then one has to become free from all gunas, including Sattva. Tasmad Brahma Sukha Anubhav Dasatah Purvasu Eva Dasasu Jivasu Maya Adhikara iti. So now it is therefore proven that Maya has its control over the jivas only before they have come to the level of realizing Brahman. Below that, Brahman Bhuna Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. So there is Brahma and then there is Brahma. So below Brahman, that is the field of Maya. That is the jurisdiction of Maya. Maya has no jurisdiction beyond that. Once one realizes Brahman, then Maya cannot touch that person. There is no fall down from Brahman realization also, because it is Nirguna. It is free from all gunas and it is free from the jurisdiction of Maya. Satyam eva pratitam syad yato asatyam tatha yatah tad vidyat atmano mayam yatha bhaso yatha tamaha iti anukter ityasmin arthe api ashayam ikshate. Now he says one very interesting thing. He says that why the sloka is made like this, Ritayartham yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta cha atmani tad vidyat atmano mayam yatha bhaso yatha tamaha. So it would have been better to make this sloka as like this. It will be easy to understand, no confusion. The simple is Satyam eva pratitam syad yato asatyam tatha yata. It says that which gives you the knowledge of objects as they are, and also which gives you the knowledge of objects as they are not, you should know that as my Maya. And example of Yatha so Yatha, why not make the sloka like this? So easy definition. If you define something, then it should be simple so that people can understand. So he says, why did he bring these complicated words? Rite artham yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta cha atma. So he says, there is one principle in Shastra and it is very much used in Sanskrit grammar or when you are interpreting the sutras, because sutras are very small and they are not very explicit, and they try to use as little words in the sutras as possible. So there is a way of interpreting them, because if something can be removed from the sutra and still it can carry that meaning implicitly, then do it. That's why it is called thread. It's not a cloth, it's just a thread. So the one principle is that if something looks wrong to you, that means it is telling you something extra. So asiddham kinchit adhikam gyapayati. So many times you read sutra, like Panini's sutra, and it looks like that there was no need of this sutra. So because the person who has the assumption behind this principle is that one who made the sutra, he is so perfect that he cannot make mistake. And if it looks to us that something is redundant, then it signifies that he is trying to tell us something more from this. So now, if this sloka is little complicated and could have been said in a simple manner, so it does not mean that Vyasadeva did not know what he is doing. It signifies that there is more to it. So that's why he says it here. He says that instead of making the sloka as he has made it, where he keeps the second line as it is, he just changes the first line, which carries the meaning as he has interpreted it till now. And then he says that iti anukte, not saying it like this, iti anyasmin arthepi ashaya ikshate. Says this indicates that this sloka has some other meaning also along with it. If he would have said the way he has composed the first line, then the other meaning will not come. Then only one meaning will come, simple. So as I said yesterday, that there is a way of saying a thing, and that is called tantra. Tantra Nyaya. It's the principle of tantra, that you say, make one statement and then you get 2 or 3 different meanings from that. So that's why he says that. So now he begins. Rite artha shabdau parivritta asaha arpitau yatah sacha artho yatha. So he continues to make this sloka. He says that these 2 words, he is going to make a play on these 2 words, rite and artha. Because rite artham yat pratiyeta. So rite artha and yat. There is a principle in Kavya, it is called parivritti, shabda pravritti saha. And shabda pravritti saha means that you can exchange a word and it will not change the meaning. So if you want to say Vrishadhvaja, which is the name of Shiva. So Vrisha means bull and Dhvaja means flag. So his symbol is bull on his flag. And Krishna is called Garud Dhvaja because his flag carries the symbol of Garuda. So here, if you instead of saying Garuda Dhvaja, you can also say Garuda Lanchana. So you change the word parivritti. It doesn't change the meaning. So he says that here he is going to change the word and change the meaning. Parivritti asaha. So of course not change the word but give another meaning to the words. And then he will bring out, because earlier he said that both Mahamaya and Yoga Maya, they are explained in this verse. When he says that know that to be Maya, so he is giving definition of both Maya, but it is the same definition. Definition is one, but it is to be applied to Yoga Maya as well as to Mahamaya. And of course, if you are going to apply to Yoga Maya, then the words must have different meaning. Cannot have the same meaning and then apply. Then what is the fun? Then Yoga Maya will become same as Mahamaya. So therefore, he will give a different meaning now to Rita and Artha. If you would have used the word Satyam, then there is no other meaning you can give. Satyam means truth. But the word Rita has different meaning. It means without. It can also mean, as he will say, to know. Vigata Vrita. Sacha artho yatha. He says that meaning is as follows. Brahma anubhav vatsu api janesu nana vidhesu ya spashtam adhikaroti bhagavad ichha vashat tadiya swarupa guna lila prakashan avaran dhurandhara swarup bhuta shakti tasya yoga mayaya api lakshanam tantrenaiva aha. He says that power which is swarup bhuta, which is the internal nature of the Lord, and which can control or has influence even those people who are Brahman realized. Maya, he said, does not have the jurisdiction over the liberated people, those who have realized Brahman. But this Yoga Maya, he says that Brahma anubhavatsu api janesu nana vidhesu yaspashtam adhikaroti. He very clearly has jurisdiction, authority over these people, and by the will of the Lord. That means if she wants, she can take them out from this Brahman. And there are instances of that in the Puranas. Tadiya Swarup Guna Lila Prakashan Avaran Dhurandhara. And it also has two functions, because previously he said that Abhas and Tama, light and darkness. So he says Yoga Maya also has two, that it also covers and it also illuminates. So he says that it can illuminate the nature of the Lord, His qualities and His pastimes. It can also cover them for devotees. Both functions, the same functions which Maya does in the material world, Yoga Maya also does similar functions with the devotees in the spiritual world. And it is Dhurandhar, means really great in doing that. Dhurandhar means wonderful person. Sarup Bhuta Shakti Tasya Yoga Maya Abhilakshanam. So that definition of Yoga Maya is also given in this verse, Ritayartham yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani, by the principle of Tantra, Ritayati. So now he gives the second meaning which applies to Yoga Maya. So Atmani Paramatmani says na pratiyeta cha Atmani. Says the word Atma here means Paramatmana, Paramatma, and that is me. The Lord is speaking, Mai, in me. Rite Gyate Sati. So he says Paramatmani, Atmani, Rite Gyate Sati, that once one has known me. So now the meaning of Rite means having known. Previously the meaning of Rite was without. Why is that? Because Rite is also an avya, indeclinable, and it also can be made from the root Ri, which means to go, which also means to know. So he says Arther Gatyarthatvena Jnanarthatvat. So in Sanskrit there are many roots which means to go, and all these roots which means to go also means to know. Gati, Gyan, together they go. Sakshad Anubhute Sati. So once one has realized this, Rite Arthamya, then Lord, once one has understood the Lord or realized the Lord, then Lord's Maya plays. Sometimes he covers the devotee and sometimes uncovers. He says, know that to be my Maya, which covers or reveals the form of the Lord. Yaditi ingatau shatriyantam tatpadeneva yat padasya akshepat. So when this word yat, which he said yata, now he is making that also with ingatav, which also means to know. Yataha arthaha yat prayojanam, and the word artha means prayojana, purpose. Previously he translated artha as the objects, and now artha means prayojan, like purushartha, 4 purusharthas, 4 purposes of human life. So prapnuvat, so that means one who has realized that the Lord, he has definitely attained the purpose of life. Prapnuvat vastu aprakritam prakritam cha pratiyate yaya prakashitam sat saprayojanam vastu paramatma sakshatkaravata janena sakshad anubhuyate ityartha. So he says that by the power of the Lord's Mahamaya, Yog Maya, then this person, he can understand both the material objects and the transcendental objects, being illuminated by the power of Yog Maya. And there is a direct realization of this, because he has purpose for that. If he has the purpose to know Lord's form, means if it fits in Lord's pastime, then Lord Yog Maya will reveal it. If he has to know the material world, then Yog Maya will reveal it. And if there is purpose to not reveal it, then it will be covered from him. Yatah sakashat na pratiyate cha yaya avritam tadeva samayantare va na pratiyate. So sometimes because of her, the objects are not revealed, they are covered, and therefore at a particular time they are not known to the devotee. Tam atmano bhagavato mama mayam yog mayakhyam antaranga shaktim vidyat janaya. So that is the meaning of the second line, that know that to be my maya, called Yog Maya, and this is my internal potency. Maya prayojanam vinayeva avriyate Yog Maya tu prayojanam uddesya eva iti vivechaniyam. So he says that Maya covers the living entity without any purpose. It doesn't achieve anything by that. But Yog Maya covers the devotee with a purpose. It is not without any purpose. He says this must be understood. Yatha bhaso yatha tamayati. And then the same 2 examples as reflection and as light. Abhasena deepadina prakashitam ghatapatadikam yatha pratiyate tamsa avritam tanna anubhuyate cha tathaiva sa mad ichha vasad abhasa tamo dharmavati Yog Maya. He said just as abhasa means light, that when there is lamp, then it illuminates the objects in a room. In the same way, when there is darkness, then the objects are covered and one does not see them. So he says my Maya also does these 2 functions, Yog Maya. By my Madicha Vasad. So he says that by my will, my Yog Maya has these 2 characteristics of illuminating sometimes and covering sometimes. And then he will give many examples of this, because this covering and illumination also happens at various levels according to the intimacy of the devotee. And Lord covers and reveals. Covers means, covers is Aishwarya, and reveals means reveals the Aishwarya. So sometimes the Aishwarya is covered and the Madhurya is revealed, and sometimes the Madhurya is covered and the Aishwarya is revealed. So what will be covered and what will be revealed, that depends on the level or relationship of the devotee with the Lord. So now he will start with the Aishwarya. Udaharanam tu yatha, the examples are as follows. ऐश्वर्य दर्शने अपि प्रेम संकोच अभाव ज्ञापनार्थम भगवत कुक्षौ यया प्रकाशितं प्राकृतं विश्वम अप्राकृतं गोकुल यशोदा कृष्णादि स्वरूपं च यया मोहिता श्री यशोदा साक्षाद अनुभूव क्षणांतरे च यया आवरणात् न अनुभूव च. He says that Yashoda, she had this vision of the universe inside the mouth of the Lord. So although Aishwarya was revealed to her, because this is not Madhurya, no human being can do something like this. So she saw the Aishwarya feature of the Lord, seeing this universe, which means Prakrit and Aprakrit, material universe and also the transcendental, because she also saw Gokul and Braj, everything inside. Also saw the sky and the other planetary systems. So Prakrit and Aprakrit, material and spiritual, both creations were revealed to her inside the body of the Lord. Now this, when Aishwarya is seen, then immediately the prema or love becomes contracted. Because if you have awe and reverence for somebody, then you maintain distance. The intimacy is lost. So Lord did not want that to happen. He was very careful that Yashoda does not start worshipping him. Otherwise from next day there was no butter for him. There will be only Aarti. So because now he is God. So he did not want this problem. He wanted to live a tension-free life. Because to get Aarti is also big tension. So he says, Prema Sankocha Abhav Gyapnartham. So to indicate that he does not want to contract. Sankoch means minimize or diminish the prema. For that, what did Maya do? Yaya prakashitam prakritam vishwam aprakritam. So prakrit, Vishwa, the material universe, and aprakrit, Gokul, Yashoda, Krishna, the Swarupam cha. Because she also saw herself and Krishna inside. That is not material. And also the Gokul. So that is aprakrit. Yaya mohita Sri Yashoda sakshad anubabhuve. So Yashoda directly experienced all this. So this was revealing. But then Shanantare cha yaya avaranat na anubabhuve. Then just after a moment, she was not seeing this. Before she was wondering what is it? Is it dream? Is it real? Or is it magic? What? Swapnaut Maya, Deva Maya. So she was confused for a second, and then suddenly the covering was complete and she was again having, this is my baby Krishna. And she came back to chastising him. So this is how Maya functions, Yoga Maya. Yatha cha Aishwarya anubhutya prema sankoch gyapnartham yaya prakashitam vishwarupam paramatma swarupam cha arjunah sakshad anubabhuve tatraiva vartmanam api krishna swarupam yaya avarnat na anubabhuve samayantare cha yaya achhaditam vishwarupadikam na anubabhuve dvibhujam Sri Krishnam eva anubabhuve. Now he gives another example, and this is the example of Arjuna. So in case of Arjuna, what Krishna did, that he diminished his love, prema, in the heart of Arjuna. Therefore he says, Dadami Divyam Chakshu. He says, now I am going to give you Divya Chakshu. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary, he writes that this Divya Chakshu was not something better than what Arjuna had before. Arjuna had better eyes before because he was seeing Krishna as his friend. And then he removed that and he gave him Divya, means Aishwarya Chakshu. Because Divya is related with Devatas who have Aishwarya. So then he started seeing the universal form and not seeing Krishna's beautiful two-handed form. So therefore he says here that by this very Maya, Aishwarya Anubhutya, when Arjuna was experiencing the Aishwarya, then Prema Sankocha Gyapnartham, then to reduce or minimize the Prema, Yaya Prakashitam Vishwarupam. Because unless the Prema has to be minimized, this Vishwarupa cannot become manifest. Vishwarupa cannot stand Prema. Prema has the power to cover the Vishwarupa, the universal form. So if Arjuna has to see the universal form, then this Prema has to hide for some time. So that was the job of Yogamaya. So Paramatma Swarupam cha Arjuna Sakshad Anubhava. So Arjuna, he experienced now Krishna as the Supreme Person, Paramatma, Super Soul, not his friend anymore. Therefore he was asking for forgiveness. Tatraiva Vartmanamapi Krishna Swarupam Yaya Avarnat Nanubhava. Now Krishna had not gone away somewhere when universal form was manifest. Krishna was also standing there, and in fact he was talking with him. And he was saying, this is my universal form. See whatever you like to see, past, present, future, you can see in this. Because universal form means it has everything in it. What has happened, what will happen, all in one place and one time. So like you go to this, where this one is, stars, what is it called? Planetarium.
The planetarium.
You go to planetarium, you sit in one place and you see the various planets. So like that he was seeing the whole universe in one place. And things which happened and will happen. But he was not seeing Krishna anymore. That's why he got terrified. He was shivering. Such a powerful person. People were afraid of Arjuna. In Mahabharata it is said that Duryodhana used to get terrified whenever he heard anybody's name starting with A. Because he had so much fear from Arjuna that if somebody said Amit, as soon as he said A, he thought he's going to say Arjuna. So much fear he had from Arjuna. So this person was full of fear. So Paramatma Swarupam cha Arjuna Sakshad Anubhavuva. Directly he experienced. And Tatraiva Vartmanamapi Krishna Swarupam Ya Avarnat Nanubhavu. Did not see the form of Krishna which was present right there because it was covered by Maya. And then after some time, Samayantarecha Yaya Achaditam Vishwarupadikam Nanubhavu. Then after some time he did not experience the universal form. Dvibhujam Sri Krishnam Eva Anubhavu. And then he started seeing the 200 form. Tene Rupena Chaturvudena. And he says, show me your same 400 form. And then Krishna, Saumya Vapu Mahatma. And he became Saumya Vapu, which means the human form. So now where was that universal form? It was also there at that time. It has not disappeared anywhere, but it was covered. So like you watch TV, there are various channels, so you change channel. On one channel you see universal form, another channel you see 400 form, another channel you see 200 form. But when you see 200 form, then you cannot see what is on the other channel. It's not possible. You have to can have one channel at a time. So Yogamaya changes channels for the devotee according to the desire of the Lord, which means as it is needed in the pastime. Atra ekdaiva ekasya swarupasya prakashanam anyasya avarnam iti purvato vishesha. So he says that this manifestation of Yogamaya is more interesting than in case of Yashoda, because at a time one form was shown and the other was covered. In the case of Yashoda seeing Krishna, she was able to see both channels simultaneously. But he says that this one is more interesting than the other one, because there she doesn't have to cover one, she has to only reveal one. She only revealed something more than Krishna's form. But here, one is being covered and one is being revealed. So he says this is more Vishesha, more special. यथा च मंजु महिम दर्शनया ब्रह्मण ईश्वरत्व अभिमान निवर्तनार्थम यया आवरण प्रकाशनाभ्याम लीला परिकर वत्स बालादि अदर्शन कृष्ण स्वरूप भूत वत्स बालादि दर्शन तद अदर्शन चतुर्भुजादि दर्शन तद अदर्शन श्री कृष्ण स्वरूप दर्शनानि प्रापय मोहित परमेष्टि. Now he goes to one more step of Yogamaya, and this is related with Brahma. So Brahma's case was even more interesting. Brahma was thinking that he is very powerful, he is the Ishvara, and when he saw Krishna's beautiful form, then he came to see Krishna, and then Yogamaya wanted to remove the pride of Brahma, thinking that he is the Ishvara. So then many things happened there by Avaran and Prakash, covering and revealing, covering and revealing. So what happened that Leela Parikar Vatsa Baladi Adarshan. So first, when Brahma came, he did not see the associates of the Lord, the calves, and he thought that he is stealing them. There was no question of Brahma stealing. Brahma does not have the power that he can steal the calves of Krishna. But because he wanted to do this, then Krishna made them disappear. And Brahma thought that he is stealing them. So the first part is Leela Parikar Vats Baladi Adarshan. That now he is only seeing Krishna and he is thinking, now let me see what he is going to do. He does not know that Krishna himself is one step ahead of him. This he realized later on, and that's why he was stuck with wonder. Because before he could steal, he made them disappear and made Brahma think that he is stealing. He said, okay, you come and I will show you my Maya. Then he saw Krishna Swarup Bhut Vats Baladi Darshan. Then he saw that these calves and cowherd boys, they were manifest, and they were not the same, the associates, but he manifested them from his own Swarup. So that is the second. And then what he did, Krishna did, that he made them disappear again, even those which were manifest from his own Swarup. And he manifested 400 forms, because every calf and every cowherd boy which Brahma was seeing at that time, everyone turned into a Vishnu form, every one of them. And everyone was being worshipped by Brahmas and Shivas and demigods and the material elements, and everybody was just worshipping each one of them. And he was looking, because he has heard of one Vishnu, he's never heard of more than one. So now he was completely, like you go to a TV shop, there are many TVs there, and the same program is being relayed in every TV. So you start seeing everywhere the same thing. So this is what Brahma was standing in a Vishnu shop. So all around there is Vishnu. So this was covering even not only the parikaras or the associates of the Lord, but also the cowherd boys which were manifest from Krishna's body, even they were covered and manifesting now the Vishnu forms. And then after that again Tadadarsam. Then he covered this also, or Yogamaya covered. Then suddenly all these Vishnu forms disappeared and only Krishna was standing alone there. So this was too much of Yogamaya. Nobody has experienced like this. So Sri Krishna Swarupa Darshanani Prapa Yaya Mohita Parameshti. So he says that this Parameshti Brahma, he was completely bewildered by this play of Yogamaya. That's why he started praying. It was not, Brahma was not an easy nut to crack, because he knows the Vedas and he's seen so many things happening around, and to impress him he has to do something really extraordinary. So this is what Krishna did. So then he was completely dumbfounded. So much that he started praying, and then he was feeling very embarrassed actually. So it is said that he did parikrama and he just left from there, and Krishna did not speak one word to him. So we'll stop here if there is any question.
We often hear that devotees are under, let's say, Krishna's direct control, like Krishna's direct guidance or protection. Presumably that means they're under the jurisdiction of Swarup Shakti, internal
Yes,
potency.
of course.
But then for devotees that are still under the influence of the gunas, the gunamayi bhakti, it seems that there is an influence of the external potency as well. So what is the actual case?
Actual case is something like this, that when a devotee surrenders to the Lord, so he becomes Lord's person. And when I say surrender, means in the true sense. But he is not yet perfect. It's not that immediately somebody attains bhava and prema. When somebody has come to the level of bhava, then he is not influenced by the gunas. But this stage where one surrenders and reaches the stage of bhava, then although we say that he is free from karma and he is free from this and he is free from that, but this freedom is something more like philosophical. Or he is not under the influence of gunas, because to make him absolutely free from all this, Lord has to make a lot of arrangements. Because anybody's karma in this material world is related with so many people. There is nobody here who is just born and has no entanglements with other human beings or other living entities. Because we have been here in this material world without any beginning. So we have performed so many activities and we have many things common, and some of the karma which has to manifest, for me it has to manifest with you as part of my outcome of my karma. So if he just cuts it off, then it's fine that he has cut off the karma for this particular person because he has become a devotee, but then he has to adjust for other people who are involved or who are supposed to be involved with him. So instead of doing like that, then what is done is that because devotee surrenders to Krishna, and then things which are supposed to happen to him, they will happen, but now he sees them in a different light. So as we have been saying that objects are same, but even in material world we see them differently according to our consciousness. Everybody sees things differently. It's not only painting that people see it differently, but every object, when you see, it creates a different feeling in us, depending on our past samskaras which are coming from the karma and our vasanas and experiences in this life, which are all different for everybody. But once one becomes a devotee and understands, then one's perspective changes. That person starts seeing things from devotional point of view. So in that sense it is said that the person is free from karma, because karma is related with rag and dvesh, happiness and distress. This duality, nothing else. That's what karma is. It's either going to give you some favorable situation that you feel happy, or it is going to create an unfavorable situation that you feel miserable. Either it is going to give you some attachment, or it's going to give you some aversions. That's all ultimately karma is all about. But now, because he is not interested in this, he starts seeing every situation as in relationship with the devotion, that whether it is favorable to devotion or it is unfavorable to devotion. If it is favorable to devotion, then I am going to take this action, and if it is unfavorable, I am going to take this action. Previously the actions will be taken only if it is favorable to me, my particular body. Basically body means ultimately my mind. Whether it is favorable to my mind or it is unfavorable to my mind. If it is favorable to my mind, then I accept it and I want more of it, and I become attached to it. And if it is unfavorable, then I don't want it and I work to remove it. But once we become devotee, then even if it is unfavorable to my mind but it is favorable to Krishna, then I still accept it and I try to work around it so that the service is done. And on the other side, if it is favorable to me but it is unfavorable to the service, then I am not interested in it. So this is how the karma changes. In other words, the external situation may not change, because that is a very complicated procedure to do that. But you change internally, and as an outcome it means the same. But when one goes to the spiritual world, then the external situation is also changed. And favorable, unfavorable, everything there is only in relationship to Krishna. Because there our body, our bhav is like that, and from bhav comes the body. So now our mind does not think in relationship to body, or in fact it thinks in relationship to the body, but that body itself is now tuned in such a way that its bhav is devotional. So that's why from the bhav body is coming. And here in the material world, because the bhav is sukha and dukkha in relationship to the body only, so that the body also acts like that. But there, because the bhav will be bhakti bhav, so the body is also like that. So then naturally. So the same thing which we will do in spiritual body, we start doing that here in this body by changing the bhav. Although my body has not changed and the external situation has not changed, but I change my bhav. So in that sense, devotee is free from karma. So that is the sadhana part. So when he will get the bhav, then it will become natural. When he has not got the bhav, that is the struggle part. That's where the anartha nivritti is there, because then the idea will come like this, and the old attachment will come. So all these things will bother. And then if one has the shraddha, then one will not be deviated by that. The struggle will happen in the mind. You cannot avoid that. Why? Because it has not yet become natural. So when sthai bhav is attained, then this has become your bhav now. So even when the body may not, of course now you have got the sthai bhav, but the body you have not come from this sthai bhav. It came from something else. So it will not cooperate. So therefore this has to be then given up. And then you get a new body, which is an outcome of the sthai bhav.
So the change is essentially in consciousness.
Consciousness, yes.
Under just trying to think now of what it means, what it actually means, Gunamayi Bhakti. Because it seems that like the conscious part is as you say, you know, that we're seeing every situation in relation to Krishna, but there's still, let's say, unconscious forces at work.
Yeah, then we don't call it Gunamayi.
No?
No. Because whether it is Gunamayi or not Gunamayi, that depends on the prayojana. If our prayojana is Krishna Anukulya, and although I may still be struggling with it because of my vasana and not control of mind, then it will not be called as Gunamayi Bhakti. It will still be called as Uttama Bhakti. That's why Rupa Goswami made 3 divisions of Bhakti. He said Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. And these 3 are divisions of Uttama Bhakti. Sa Bhakti Tridha, Sadhana, Bhava, Prema cha, he says this. And before that only he has given the definition of Uttama Bhakti. So it will still be called Uttama Bhakti because of its prayojana. That it, what is its sadhya? Its sadhya is Bhava Bhakti. So for that reason it is not Gunamayi. It will be Gunamayi if the prayojana is Guna. If the prayojana is liberation, then it will be called Sattva, Sattvaki. If the prayojana is to take revenge or something like this or some material gain, then it is Rajas. And if the prayojana is destructive, then it is Tamasa. So prayojana is what will make it. Because really speaking, bhakti is not Gunamayi. It is the consciousness of the person. And ultimately consciousness is also not Gunamayi. Consciousness becomes Gunamayi when it reflects in the chitta. So now when we are talking about consciousness, and sometimes we use the word material consciousness, it means the consciousness which is reflecting into the chitta of the person. And because that is material and there are samskaras stored there, then it becomes material. So this Cheto Darpana Marjanam basically means to get rid of these things. And then pure consciousness will become manifest. So you start, then it is Sattvaki. And Sattvaki goes up to liberation. Sattvaki cannot think of service. That is the nature of Sattva. Service to Krishna. If it will think of service to Krishna, it will become Nirguna. So Sattvaki thinks of peace, happiness, no disturbance, no action. That is Sattva. That is the characteristic of Sattva.
You said, I think, I don't know if I heard well, that there was no guna in Brahman realization, when we attain Brahman realization. There is
Yes.
no influence of the guna, and so there is no fall from the Brahman realization.
No, there is no fall.
So someone who is there stays there forever, or there is more achievement from that point?
No, they stay forever. But sometimes bhakti may take out somebody from there. But that is not your own choice. Because it says that this is also under the jurisdiction of Yogamaya or under the jurisdiction of bhakti. So sometimes there are instances, and that is just to prove this point, that somebody got into Brahman and then he stayed there for short time. Of course, time, to say short time is also problematic, because this word time has a different meaning when you are in Brahman, because there is no time there.
What is this exactly, this Brahman realization?
It cannot be defined.
Is that the Brahman Jyoti, what they call it?
It has to be only experienced. as soon as you define it, it does not remain Brahman.
Is it the what they call the Brahmajyoti also? Is that the
Yes, same. Brahman Jyoti, Brahman, something.
Nirvana also? Is that
Hmm?
what they call it Nirvana?
Nirvana, yes.
This is also.
So, about this reducing the bhava of Arjuna, like this channel. So, this goes because of the desire of the Lord combined with the desire of the devotee.
Yes.
So, from very start,
That
because,
is very difficult to say.
because
These are not, you see, they don't have independent desires.
they don't have independent desire.
That's what I said, that Lord is not independent and of course devotee is not independent.
Yeah.
So this analysis is difficult to do if we are talking about pure devotees. When we are talking about here, then of course Lord is the controller, he controls everything. And we don't talk about this other part to common people because then they will lose faith. He says, if Lord is not controller, how can he be Lord? So therefore this Madhurya Leela is not for people who don't even understand the Aishwarya part. So first therefore Aishwarya part, Aishwarya feature of Lord has to be understood, and then you can understand the Madhurya feature. Otherwise it becomes just some kind of sentimentalism and confusion, and it is neither Aishwarya nor Madhurya.
So the Madhurya part is really, bottom line, Krishna Leela, Krishna's Leela.
As a human being in Braj, that is Madhurya. Where he is not God. Madhurya means God not being God. God becoming like us.